Chapter 2465. Page 1/1. After leaving the Fu residence, Qin Sini's strong aura that she had forced herself to be collapsed in an instant. Once they stepped out of the Fu residence, Qin Sini hugged Yun Jian. After a while, Yun Jian felt Qin Sini lying on her shoulder, wet. Jian, what should I do? What should I do? Jian, let's not go back, okay? I don't want to go back to Longmen City, I don't want to go back. Qin Sini cried and screamed at the same time like a helpless child who had lost her way. Yun Jian knew that Qin Sini got a boyfriend to avoid Zhang Xiaofeng. She and Zhang Xiaofeng were cousins. Close relatives were not allowed to marry each other because the chances of children born of close relatives being born with disabilities and idiots were very high. In ancient times, there was a saying to keep the goodies within the family, but it was later proven by science that this was not feasible. Qin Sini wanted to let Zhang Xiaofeng see her happiness and completely cut off their relationship that had gone beyond family. But now, where do you want to go? Yun Jian did not know how to comfort people. She patted the member's back and asked, I want a drink. Jian, don't stop me. I feel terrible. Qin Sini's heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife. She hugged Yun Jian tightly as tears streamed down her face. Before this, Qin Sini had never been in a relationship, but she had already realized that something was wrong. She and Zhang Xiaofeng were out of the question. When Qin Sini was pushed down the stairs and her head cracked open, it was Yun Jian who saved her from the Grim Reaper. He had stayed by her side in the hospital and even after she was hospitalized, saying that he was the only one who would want her when her head was already like this. In spite of it, Qin Sini knew that if she did not cut off this relationship, it would be even worse when she tried to cut it off in the future. That was why she got a boyfriend. She did not expect it to turn out like this. Yun Jian did not say anything, only answering Qin Sini softly. When they arrived at the bar, Qin Sini cried and drank while Yun Jian accompanied her. The Bo residence. Inside Bo Wangxiu's room. Bo Wangxiu was holding his phone as he tried to connect the signal. Lu Finfin had taken his phone away and he was grounded. The phone in his hand was an old phone that Bowen had repaired. It was an old phone from a few years ago. The phone signal could not be connected. Bo Wangxiu even stood on the desk in his room and extended the hand holding the broken phone out of the window to connect to the signal. Beep. Finally, a message was sent. Bo Wangxiu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this voice. On the screen of the phone, the last message sent was still clearly visible. Brother, I'm risking my life to help you this time. Sini has come to Weizhou. I'm afraid that she'll take things too hard. Go and find her quickly. After drinking for an entire night in the bar, Qin Sini spat out a mouthful of blood the moment she left the hotel. Yun Jian sent Qin Sini to the People's Hospital near Wei Province overnight. After a night of checkups at the hospital, they found out that Qin Sini drank so much that her stomach was bleeding. After all, Qin Sini was someone who never drank. She had drunk 15 bottles of wine and refused to listen. Yun Jian did not know how to comfort her, so she could only let her be. Qin Sini only fell asleep in the hospital ward at 4 in the morning. Yun Jian, on the other hand, went to a nearby hotel to check in after confirming that Qin Sini was fine. The next morning, Qin Sini had just woken up. She used her hand to block the light when she suddenly saw a haggard figure sitting on a bench beside her, the one she did not want to see the most, Zhang Xiaofeng. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 2466. Page 1/1. Zhang Xiaofeng had rushed over from Longmen City in the middle of the night. Zhang Xiaofeng knew nothing about Qin Sini inviting Yun Jian to Wei Province's Bo Wangxiu's house for a Lunar New Year visit. After learning about Qin Sini's condition, Zhang Xiaofeng rushed the entire night without even closing his eyes. It had only been one night, but he looked so haggard that it was frightening. Qin Sini was still hooked up to an 4-drip when she first saw Zhang Xiaofeng. She probably reacted swiftly at the same time and straightened her back, instinctively wanting to remove the 4-drip and run out. How long are you going to make a fuss? Zhang Xiaofeng grabbed Qin Sini's wrist reflexively when he saw her running out. His handsome but haggard face was heart-wrenching. Qin Sini looked around but did not see Yun Jian. She wanted to fling Zhang Xiaofeng's hand away, but it was held tight. I'm not making a fuss. Qin Sini's tears flowed again after she said that. Isn't it good to be by my side? Didn't I say that other than me, who else would want a woman like you? Zhang Xiaofeng looked furious. Unlike the righteous Zhang Xiaofeng in his 3rd year of junior high, Zhang Xiaofeng was already a mature man in his 20s now that he was in university. There were obvious changes in his personality as well. He was more mature now. But we're siblings. We're cousins. We're close relatives. Qin Sini shouted with tears in her eyes. Before Qin Sini could finish her sentence, Zhang Xiaofeng kissed Qin Sini's lips eagerly, swallowing the last word she wanted to say. With Zhang Xiaofeng around, Yun Jian wasn't worried about Qin Sini. At this moment, Yun Jian arrived at the largest park in Wei Province's Pan City. Pan City was the area where Yun Jian was now, and Pan City was also the most prosperous place in Wei Province. The richest family in Wei Province, the Fu family, was in Pan City. Yun Jian didn't come to the largest garden in Pan City to play. With Qin Sini in such a state, Yun Jian was not in the mood to play. Of course, the biggest reason for coming here was because the address written on the envelope that Yuan Jin had asked Yeji to secretly give Yun Jian was this large garden in Wei Province's Pan City. Purple Cherry Garden. The Purple Cherry Garden was not only the largest garden in Pan City, it was also the largest garden in Wei Province. In fact, it was the second largest garden in Country Z. The Purple Cherry Garden's surface area was as large as 10 ordinary schools combined. This was a rather large area. Here, one could find out the identity of the mysterious person, as well as the secrets of God Continent and the thousands of continents over the years. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes as she walked in the Purple Cherry Garden. Yaya, as Wenxiu's fiancé, you have to come to our house often in the future. You should cultivate your relationship with Wenxiu. Just as Yun Jian was walking aimlessly in the Purple Cherry Garden for almost half an hour, a familiar voice suddenly came from the front. She saw a group of people walking in front of her. The one walking at the front was none other than Lu Fenfen, whom she had met yesterday. Lu Fenfen was holding on to Bo Wenxiu's fiancé, Suya, and behind them was a reluctant Bo Wenxiu. There were also a few young people around the same age as Bo Wenxiu and Suya. They were obviously the sons and daughters of wealthy families. Yun Jian didn't care at all, nor was she surprised. She bypassed the group and walked forward as if she didn't see them at all. When Lu Fenfen saw Yun Jian, however, her expression changed completely. Lu Fenfen's face darkened as she looked at Yun Jian and suddenly shouted, "What the hell? It's you? Why are you haunting us like a ghost? You even followed us here on purpose and followed us here. Shame on you. I said before, no matter what your friend does, my son won't be with her." Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Henyi. But the strange thing is that the pictures of these people were later identified by experts who said that the people carved on this rock all seemed to be practicing the same cultivation method, just like the immortal cultivation mentioned in the novels. But this conclusion was immediately refuted by the secular world. You said that there were people who existed long before human history was recorded. Could there really be immortal cultivators in this world? The tour guide's voice reached everyone's ears. Ha, pedantic. Seeing that Yun Jian was listening attentively to the tour guide's voice, Lu Fenfen could not help but snort coldly. At that time, everyone thought that the tour guide's words were just a trick used by the tour guide to boast about the tourists. But just when everyone thought so and did not care at all, they suddenly saw a figure standing in front of the tour guide. Yun Jian walked over in front of everyone and grabbed the tour guide's collar. Her eyes darkened slightly as she questioned the tour guide. "Repeat what you said just now." Chapter 2470. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Yun Jian's words, coupled with Yun Jian's current actions, stunned everyone present. It was as if they had seen something terrifying. How could a normal teenage girl have such amazing wrist strength? She could form her hand into an eagle's claw and strangle a person's neck, lifting the person up effortlessly. Yun Jian's wrist strength was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Everyone present, including the tourists standing at the side and the female tour guide, all looked extremely shocked. Everyone's faces were shrouded in shock and fear. Yun Jian's actions were too shocking. "Mom?" Bowen Xiu was the first to react. He rushed forward and shouted. Just as Lu Fenfen was about to be strangled to death by Yun Jian, he begged Yun Jian for mercy. "Let her go. I'll definitely control her mouth and stop her from spouting nonsense." When everyone came to their senses and wanted to save Lu Fenfen, Yun Jian glanced at Bowen Xiu. She laughed coldly and let go. "The message you sent to Xiaofeng saved your mom's life." Yun Jian glanced at Bowen Xiu. Her red lips moved, but her face was still expressionless. She glanced at Bowen Xiu, then turned and left. How did she know? I was the one who sent the message. Bowen Xiu looked at Yun Jian's retreating figure and stood rooted to the ground, dumbstruck. "Wen Xiu, what's going on?" Suer asked Bowen Xiu after seeing Lu Fenfen take a long time to recover. He heaved a sigh of relief. "I'm fine." Bowen Xiu shook his head, suppressing the shock in his heart. There was only one kind of person who could so accurately guess that he was the one who sent the message. A hacker. Yun Jian left the purple cherry garden. There was no more information she wanted here. Just now, Yun Jian had basically understood the origin of the mysterious person. The creator of the divine continent, Xing Feng, was not from the divine continent. He came from another world. It was a place that did not belong to Earth, nor did it belong to the thousands of continents. The people there were not strong. They did not even have the spiritual power of the gods' continent or the myriad continents. However, that place was like a paradise. There were no wars or disputes. Back then, Xing Feng had only come to the gods' continent to become stronger. He had discovered spiritual power and created the gods' continent. As for that mysterious person, according to Xing Feng's observation, he also came from a world that didn't belong to the gods' continent, the myriad continents, or Earth. The world where Xing Feng lived. It was no wonder that the mysterious man was not even as strong as Ce. Normally speaking, an immortal cultivator who had existed for hundreds of millions of years should be so powerful that no one could defeat him. Chapter 2491. After the four assassins were thrown to the side by Yun Jian, Qi Ling gave a heart-wrenching roar. He waved his dagger and arrived in front of Yun Jian in the shortest time possible. Yun Jian without a weapon was already hard for them to deal with. Once Yun Jian grabbed their weapons, the one with the absolute advantage would definitely be Yun Jian. This was a battle between the real world's top assassins. This was a battle of life and death between the former king and the current emperor. Oh my god. Was this their world? It belongs to the world of assassins and agents. Han Jinling didn't even want to blink his eyes. He stared fixedly at the shocking scene before him and sighed. This is probably the world of assassins and agents. Suer gave a long sigh and said firmly. This was the world of assassins and agents. At this moment Yun Jian was facing Qi Ling. After Qi Ling finished his words, he flashed behind Yun Jian and attacked Yun Jian from behind. At the same time, 5 assassins attacked Yun Jian from 5 different angles. They attacked Yun Jian from the front. Seeing this, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. Then she squatted down and planned to kick the 5 assassins to the ground. These 5 assassins were not weak. Seeing this, they immediately changed their knife techniques and attacked Yun Jian, who was squatting down. Qi Ling's dagger was about to pierce Yun Jian's heart from the back. However, just as the 5 assassins changed their weapons to attack Yun Jian, who was squatting down, she stood up abruptly and lifted her leg to sweep it across. She had intended to sweep the 5 assassins' legs, but she stood up without warning and kicked their heads consecutively. The 5 assassins had no time to react and were kicked to the ground. At this moment, Qi Ling's dagger was 0.1 millimeters away from Yun Jian's heart from the back. Just when everyone's hearts were in their throats, thinking that Yun Jian would definitely fail this time, a voice suddenly rang out. Using the inertia from kicking the 5 assassins to the ground, Yun Jian spun sideways and clasped her hands together, catching Qi Ling's blade that was aimed at her heart between her palms. Oh no! Qi Ling's heart skipped a beat. Just as Qi Ling's heart skipped a beat, Yun Jian's monotonous voice rang out in front of everyone. Now it's my turn to fight back. These words were cold to the bone. Qi Ling was frightened and panic-stricken. Dagger. 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 With a side kick, Yun Jian sent Qi Ling to the ground. At the same time, she slashed Qi Ling's hand that was holding the dagger. Lowering her hand, she gripped the dagger accurately in front of everyone. She had snatched the weapon in the end. This meant that it was time for her, slaying God, to retaliate. The 20 assassins who had charged forward fearlessly were now staring at Yun Jian cautiously as if their feet were glued to the ground. None of them dared to move forward. Slaying God, the number 1 on the international secret agent ranking, was the king when she did not have a weapon. When she had a weapon, she was the ruler of the world. A sacred symbol that could make all living beings bow down to her. At this moment, be it Lu Finfin, Suer, Suya, Han Jinling, or even Wen Zhengyu, everyone's eyes were glued to Yun Jian. They were completely stunned by Yun Jian's terrifying skills. Just as everyone watched, Yun Jian suddenly raised the dagger in front of her eyes. The sharp glint in her eyes shone through the dagger and was reflected in everyone's field of vision. Her lips curled into an eerie curve that sent chills down one's spine before she blurted out the most brash and arrogant words. "You're the one who's going to kill me. It's time to send all of you on your way." If you want to talk about campus rebirth, the strongest female secret agent with more like-minded people, follow excellent reading literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find a confidant.